another episode of Fandom Family Chats. This is Jeanette, Amanda, and Maureen. We are your hosts today for the Cruel Summer Talk. Now, we decided to do something a little bit different because Cruel Summer is amazing, as you guys, if you're watching this, already know. But there is way too much to discuss to give it only a little 45-minute slot. So today and until the end of Cruel Summer, we're going to be putting out its own episode every Sunday. Still be on the same schedule, but it'll be its own. It won't be lumped in with anything else. So if you guys are really interested in the show, continue to watch that and look out for that. We'll post it probably in the afternoons on Sunday. So keep your eye out on that. And today we are going to be discussing episode 5, and each one of us has taken some notes. So this might be a long one, but I promise you won't regret it. So who wants to start us off here?
I don't know. Do we want to, I know we posted some questions to our Facebook page today. I didn't know if we wanted to go through some of those. And
well, let's discuss our notes a little bit first and discuss our takeaway, and then kind of halfway through we'll go through the questions to that.
Okay.
I think as we talk, it's going to be a little bit of a recap too.
Sure.
Just jump right to the questions. That might be a little difficult.
Okay.
So the one thing I noticed this time, I don't know if it's like this every time. I know there's a warning at the beginning of every show, but I never really noticed the wording until today. It says that there is a warning that grooming is indicated. Does it always say grooming? Because I thought it said sexual violence, domestic abuse.
It usually says domestic abuse. I think this time might have been the first time they even said like sexual abuse, because I noticed that too. I was like, oh, is that implied? I don't remember hearing that before. Not that part.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard domestic violence before.
So, and this is not like I'm not like excited that grooming's in it, but I think that's an indication of. I mean, that's where they go with Martin.
It's definitely.
So now we know that he is absolutely a bad guy. There's no question, because they said that in there, and he's the only one who could be grooming.
Yes,
I would agree. Jamie is doing that with Jeanette at some point, but I don't know.
Jamie. We'll get to him, I guess.
I didn't have as strong a reaction to Jamie as you guys did.
Oh, I hated it. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I didn't like it.
It was just the way, and maybe it was because I was giving Jamie the benefit of the doubt up until now, that he was like, a good guy. I even forgave him for punching Jeanette just because I thought his emotions were high. He was upset. He really thought she had done this. But just the way he was so calculated in how he it was gaslighting. There was no other way to put it, the way he made her believe that she was wrong. Even the way he started with the Kate, I love you, that is real. It was just the way he said it to her. It really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, before we get too deep into Jamie, let's back up a bit. Now you have yours in year order, correct?
I do. So that's why mine's not in chronological order of the episode. It's just
I have no idea how you could do that.
I have little sections, 93, 94, and then I just make notes under each one.
You're cute. Well, the question I had, and this is in the intro when they were going through last week's, what if the note was meant for Joy and not for Kate, the liar note?
Oh,
because Joy had a very real reaction to it when it came out, and I don't think any of the people who would take offense to Kate, I don't think anyone would write that on there. I don't think Jeanette did it. I don't think Vince would have done that. I don't think Jamie would have done that. Mallory didn't do it. So I wonder if it wasn't for her, but it was for, what if Mr. Scott had a wife? What if he had other kids? What if he had something? I was thinking that if it was for her, then she was the one having the affair, and she still had something to do with the disappearance. So what if the liar note for Joy was twofold? It was about, we know you had something to do with this disappearance and you're having an affair.
It definitely could be. Another thought that I think maybe someone put it out there, I don't know, if we are thinking about Annabelle, and if we think that she is a split personality, of Kate, but maybe Kate wrote the note, but it was her split personality, trying to call it. I don't know. Someone else posted that somewhere. I don't know if it was on our page or on a different page, but I thought that's interesting. And then especially, she's talking to Ashley about the note, through their chat. And, she's asking her who would benefit. Almost like maybe she almost knows that it probably was. I don't know. There was something about that just.
But if Bernice is actually Ashley, her whole goal in doing that, isn't it to help Kate get through this, to be
Yeah,
that
and I
puppet.
wonder if right. And so I wonder if she's trying to help her realize maybe somehow she knows about what's going on with Kate. Maybe she's seen it or something, and she's trying to help her realize what is going on. I don't know, just
Do we
just
know
an
that that's
interesting.
Ashley's motivation though?
Yeah, because it
I
happened
mean,
after she was talking to Derek about finding a puppet to be less scary, and the name that she chose and the way they did it, it was out of there and out of the story that she told.
yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, yes, but I was also thinking that maybe she's trying to find out the truth of what happened.
I think she's doing that too.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's exactly, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I think she's definitely trying to find the truth of what happened, but I think it's for Kate's sake that she's doing that, because I think that she can see
Oh
that
yeah, I don't.
there's things that Kate doesn't know,
Right.
and she's not talking to anybody. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want
Great.
to move into another scene of the bathroom scenes. Why
Yeah.
I just had a question. Why is Jeanette excitedly throwing away the bands for her braces when she clearly hasn't worn them in a long time, and why are they out on her counter still?
I thought about that too. And I was
Oh,
like, maybe that particular scene is not supposed to be simultaneous, and that's supposed to be more of like when she just got them off. I mean, I don't know. But I had that thought too. I was like, well, this is weird. Why would you leave those rubber bands sitting there for almost a year, you know?
I have a theory, but I think Amanda does too.
Oh,
Well, I just finally I had to get my computer for my notes.
Oh,
So going back to the liar, did anybody else notice Martin looking at Kate in the
Mhm.
bathroom mirror and he said liar?
mm-hmm.
which is why I almost think that what if it is her split personality and she left it herself? And I don't know.
And that I can't figure it out yet, but something with that,
There
with
has
the
to be
note and then him saying it, it has to be connected somehow.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think I have a note on that later. Oh, I do have a note right after this note. I have a note on that. I do think that the rubber bands, I think that what they signify is kind of, because it's 94, it's obviously she hasn't used them in a long time. I don't think Jamie would still be with her if she had those, because I think he's shallow. I do think he loved her in his way, but I think that they kind of are a reminder of who she was then when she was 13. And I think it's used as symbolism that she's, the day that she says, I can't go back to that nerdy geeky kid, is the day that she's throwing those bands away. So I think that it's kind of like she's throwing away who she was. Like there's no going back now. I'm going to be all done. So it would explain the fair comment of not being able to go back to. But with the liar thing, I think that I think that while he was grooming her and while he was abused, because I think that there was abuse going on before he kidnapped her, is my gut feeling. So I think that while he was abusing her, he was saying things like, no one's ever going to believe you. They're all going to call you a liar. It's my word against yours. Who's going to believe you that you're doing this? And so I know that because that stuck in my head too with the note, but I feel like that was more about what he was doing to her, how he's grooming her, what he was saying to her. And then the note just sort of confirmed it for her that she's a liar. And then on top of that, you have Jamie's comment from 93 or 94 when he says, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but in 94, he says to her, we both know that your memory is not what it was. You could be seeing what you're not seeing. So that's still in her mind at that point. So there's all these things that are telling her what you think happened didn't actually happen. And so it's just like confirmation. Then she gets that note of liar. Martin's right back there calling her a liar again.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, I definitely think that that's possible. But, and I mean, as far as the liar note, it also could be, I mean, we know she admitted to Bernice on the chat that she lied about some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Ashley did leave the note, not as a way to be malicious or mean, but as a way to try to get her to admit the truth to someone.
That could be.
Yeah.
What about the fair with Martin? Like what she says to her therapist. Do you guys remember what she said to her therapist?
Which part?
When she thinks about the therapist asked in the beginning of the show, can you tell me about all those times you think about with Martin or you remember with Martin? And she says, I think about that time at the fair a lot because it seemed exceedingly normal.
Right.
I think that's going to come back in some big way. The exceedingly normal comment. I feel like, first of all, I think she blames herself. I think most of these victims do blame
Oh,
themselves
sure.
for that.
I mean, yeah.
But on some level, maybe if she thinks about that time, it's almost like justifying the behavior in your mind. Like, well, it was a completely normal thing. He wasn't doing anything wrong then. He was normal then. He was just being kind then. And so that's why I started this relationship with him. That's why I started this. So I think she feels a lot of guilt and shame over it and blames herself probably a little bit. What if her calling it excessively normal is her way to say that it was okay that I did it because of this?
Could be.
Because that wasn't a normal
Is it-
situation.
Not at all.
Like, you go back and
No.
watch it. It's weird.
It's
Yeah.
very weird.
Yeah. I mean, even the whole conversation that he
Mhm.
had with her about, how I mistook you for an adult, and
Yeah.
just
Gross.
even tell her that is like so, I don't know.
Inappropriate.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The whole
really
conversation was
inappropriate.
just really.
If I saw a teacher talking to my daughter like that, there would be
Oh,
some
it
help.
was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely wrong on, I don't know, so many levels. And then even the way, I don't know, we won't jump ahead, but the way he talked to Jeanette too, I mean, was
Yeah.
just so
Yeah, it was
strange.
It's bizarre.
Mhm.
And then at
Really
the
strange.
at the end of that scene when she's talking to the therapist, like she's listening to it in her why can't I think of it? Walkman. And then they zoom in on what she's writing and it's just Annabelle over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you guys think the significance is of that? I mean, obviously she's thinking about when she met Annabelle. Why do you think she was doing that?
I don't know. See, I'm really stumped on the Annabelle thing.
I am too.
I am too. I think Annabelle. I think if they're using it as because a lot of times on television shows they'll use artistic because it was very artistic and like she was kind of drawing the name Annabelle, like almost calligraphy style. It was like the black letters and very pretty. And I think sometimes you see that device like art being used as a way to trigger memory.
Mhm.
Maybe, and so maybe that's where that's coming from. I think it's actually, I don't know, but I think I've heard of therapists using it as well. So I wonder if that's something she's trying to trigger something in her brain
Mm-hmm.
to try to figure out what Annabelle is or why that's so significant or who she is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think too, like obviously this is a different show, but in This Is Us this week, Kevin had said my acting coach wanted me to get my feelings out by painting. So what if that's the indication there is getting like Annabelle's in her own head. So she's getting her feelings out almost literally onto the page of just writing Annabelle. Like she's trying to think of how she feels and all she can feel is Annabelle.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that would kind of corroborate the multiple personality thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
I'm not sold on that either. I'm not sure.
Well, it's because it's such the obvious, like,
It seems too
thing
easy, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I was so stuck on that's Joy. Annabelle is Joy. She's not remembering. She's just protecting herself by giving her a different name.
I still think that's possible.
I still think that there's something to Joy.
She's
and
sketchy.
I was trying, and I was trying to run, and the whole thing is sketchy. Who gets new wallpaper while your daughter's missing? You just don't do that, okay? You don't do that. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I started like trying to brainstorm a little onto how she could still be involved now that we know. I mean, I think we're all on the same page that Harris is a creep.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking of something where her mother finds out that because unfortunately this is a situation where people do that when you have a 16, 17-year-old daughter who might be having an affair with an inappropriate person, even if they are adult. In the past, and especially maybe in that 90s, unfortunately, a lot of that wasn't talked about and they might have still blamed her. And I think that perhaps her mother knew about the affair or
Maybe.
I hesitate calling it an affair because but you know what I mean, like any relationship that
The
her and Mark
relationship,
had before she was kidnapped. And I think to a certain point, maybe she did tell her, if you're not happy here, go run away, or, you can walk out that door. And, maybe blames herself. And who knows? I mean, that could come into where if Jeanette did see her early on, maybe instead of going to the police, Jeanette went and found her mother.
Ooh.
Mm.
And that was something that made me think about that, was that her mom blames herself because her mother didn't act on it earlier,
Yeah.
I don't think Joy would have blamed herself. I think Joy's entirely too
I don't think
selfish
she
for that.
cares. Yeah.
You don't think so? You're not going to try to put any.
No,
She has no redeeming qualities.
no.
But I also I
Well-
think Jeanette would have said something by now with the police and the lawyers and the blaming. I think she would have said, I told Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
That's the only thing, but I don't know. Jeanette's hiding so much too. Like at this point, she either, I just have to believe that Kate saw something. I do. I solely do believe that Kate saw her somehow. I don't know what, if anything, Jeanette is hiding. But if she has to tell Joy that, then Jeanette at that point has to explain how she was there or why she was there. And there might have been more to it than just, I was sneaking in this house.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean,
But
we
also-
also know she was sneaking in his house and stealing stuff from the house.
Right.
I'm
Well,
not
to be
saying,
fair, we only know she stole the one thing, and that's because it was on the list.
to be fair, but I mean, we do know one thing. I don't know. Was it on the list? It was on the list to steal something, right?
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Did we talk about this last time, or I don't know if I read this somewhere, but talking about like what Kate might have saw. I saw this theory somewhere, and like I said, I don't know if we talked about it last time, but they made a big deal in, what was it, episode 2, whenever the garden party was,
Yep. That was
to mention that they were on the wrong bikes. Like they said it
Oh,
like
yeah.
3 times. Like, and Kate was standing there. That's when her and Jeanette made eye contact.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder if maybe she saw the bike that Jeanette was on, which was actually Mallory's bike.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, I don't know, somehow maybe she saw that at the house and she just assumed, I don't know. And also with her confusing her memories, which I think she probably is. The way she just, I don't know where I saw this, but the way she described the scene of Jeanette seeing her is how they made eye contact. It seemed almost identical to that scene.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder if she
Yeah.
somehow, I don't know.
That's a good
Somebody else,
point.
and I was like, that makes sense because I mean, and maybe that's why Mallory's being such a good friend to her now, because maybe Mallory was the one that saw her, and she legit feels bad about it now, and so she's trying to make up for it by being a good friend to her.
Yeah, I felt that too. The way, the fact that Mallory's compassion to her completely like changed on a dime.
Yeah.
And like, and we could say that just means, oh, she's a good person, she understands trauma or whatever. But if you think of somebody like, I think we all are on the same page that probably the most genuinely good humans on the show are like, one of them is definitely Vince. And Vince wasn't like that with Kate. He was still like, it's being a little weird, which I would think that too.
Yeah.
Kidnapping. So it's like, that's a normal thing. It's also a kid thing to think, So it's like, the fact that Mallory, if Mallory feels guilty about it,
Mm-hmm.
right, that she didn't turn, because I mean, Mallory didn't just dislike Kate Wallace. She hated Kate
Mm-hmm.
Wallace for what, just because she represented everything she didn't have, I guess,
Yeah.
in her mind.
And
Which in reality, her mom may be crazy, but she's probably a better mom than Joy's.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Amanda?
Like what did Mallory was being very suspicious of the therapist's office too when she was saying like, why are you here?
Right.
She was being very, I can't remember exactly what she said now. I don't have it written down next to me, but
Yeah.
I
And
rem-
Mallory also
Yeah.
didn't want her to listen to her tapes. Did y'all notice that? She was like, Sylvia says this, can be really dangerous. And
yeah.
those tapes may help her remember something. So, I mean, but I do
And
think,
that
Mallory's like genuinely like, I think she is her friend now. I mean, I don't think she's necessarily faking it.
I don't think
But I
it
wonder
started
if
that way. I
it's
think it started fake.
I think it's stemming from guilt. And now, I mean, she really does, like her, but I think she probably started trying because she started feeling guilty. Maybe she realized, hey, Kate really is a good person. And now I feel like crap that I did this to her.
And like, I mean, that's not something abnormal, like if you did something to somebody before you were friends with them and then you became friends with them, you certainly wouldn't want them to find out about that, and when you were saying that, when she went to listen to tapes, the fact that Mallory, like, not only let her listen, but started freaking out and started screaming like, Kate, what's going on? Like it was more than just being
remember that.
concerned about her. I think. Like she was wondering what she was hearing, because Kate got so quiet.
I don't remember her doing that at all.
Oh, she totally did. Yeah. She was like, at the end, she started to listen to it and she was talking about that was the day that I met Annabelle.
I kind of
And
remember.
So that was at the end of episode 4.
Yes. 3. And or 4? Are we on 4 or 5?
We're on 5
We're on
right now.
5.
Okay, so it was episode 4. And she was like, I guess Kate, the way it seemed was that Kate got kind of glass-eyed or whatever, kind of zoned out. And Mallory started, how it was played was that Mallory started like yelling like, Kate, what's wrong? Kate, are you okay? And you couldn't, it was, it wasn't, she didn't yell it. It was like, you were lip reading, basically. So it was something like that. She yelled Kate. So like, that's a weird reaction to have maybe when she's, listening to herself, like maybe Mallory felt like, I don't know, she heard something, you know what I'm saying? She was trying to like sit there to see what she heard. Yeah.
And I think
So do you
that,
think subconsciously Mallory knows or Kate knows?
I think too that like we had talked about this a little bit last week that I do think that it might have been Mallory who she saw. I couldn't connect the dots before, but now that the bike thing is brought up, it makes total sense because I think that her excuse was returning Martin's book back to his house while he was gone.
Yeah.
So she had an excuse to go back there and then try to hightail it out of there as fast as she could. I thought maybe that, I mean, there's a reason it could be Jeanette that does it too, but the bike thing makes way more sense.
Yeah, I thought it made sense when I read that.
If Jeanette gave Mallory back the necklace at the end of their friendship, maybe Mallory carried that around and she dropped it. Because I mean, I think Mallory has the potential to be a great ally, but if you cross her or you make her upset, she is a vicious enemy. And I think that there's a possibility that she was just holding that grudge on Jeanette and carrying that around. I think that's a very real possibility.
What do you guys think of the fact that maybe Mallory, out of guilt or whatever, just because that would be your natural reaction to keep going back to the scene of the crime, not going up there, but just riding back by the house, riding by Kate Wallace's house. And maybe that's kind of what's making the wheels turn for Joyce a little bit. If she saw Mallory riding by there, like constantly while Kate was missing. And that might explain the overreaction to the liar.
Who, Joyce?
So when she found the liar thing and started going after Mallory, saying, I think you wrote it. You know what I'm saying? Like if she's suspicious, if you saw somebody riding by your house all summer, well, you know what I'm saying? Like while she was gone.
I think too that Mallory's not the caliber friend that Joy wants for her daughter.
That's what I was going to say. I think she blames Mallory just simply because Mallory's not.
She's lowbrow.
Exactly.
You know what? I guess she's from the wrong side of town, but really, she doesn't look any worse than the other girl she was hanging out with.
No, she doesn't. But I think Joyce is an incredible elitist snob who doesn't like anybody who doesn't have money.
Whereas yeah, Mallory's poor, whereas, I mean, they're not. And so that's,
A
she's
poor
not worthy to
divorcee.
be friends.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
So
Mallory doesn't
speaking-
take crap from anybody either.
Exactly.
Speaking of what?
I was gonna say, speaking of Mallory, something that stood out to me in the episode, because I made a note of it. And I don't know if maybe it's just to give us, maybe we find out more about Mallory, but when they're discussing the double date that her and Vince went on,
Mhm.
and he kind of makes a joke that he heard the rumors that they went to second base, she gets almost like abnormally
mad.
like upset about it.
Yeah.
Which just stood out to me. I mean, obviously you'd be upset if, you think people are spreading rumors, but she was like, we didn't go to any base. I mean, she was like really upset, and
Mhm.
and I don't know what the significance of that is. It was something that stood out to me.
Yeah.
Which we don't know what all of her
honest?
trauma that she's been through. So
But it almost
Can I be
reminds you of the way that that Jamie loses his temper quickly when he's emotionally oppressed with something, or a big emotion comes up and he loses his temper violently. She
Right.
gets mouthy, and she gets like, if you look at, even when they were on the swings, Vince and her were on the swings, and how fast she lost her temper and started yelling at him about liking or caring for Jeanette still. Anytime
Right.
Jeanette's name is mentioned now, she skyrockets. And so I think I think there is something there, because it triggered some sort of, but there was nothing triggering about the statement. So I think it was about who she was with and what she was doing.
right. Because
Yeah.
even Vince was like, oh, I was just kidding,
Yeah.
like calm down, So
Well, I wonder. I've wondered this from the beginning, if it's just as simple as just every time we know she's straight, she does, it seems she has crush on Christian. I was wondering, Christian Slater, the Christian Slater movie, crush on Jeanette's
doesn't-
dad.
Females
So,
and males
like-
alike had crushes on Christian Slater. That man was beautiful.
I was-
That's
I was-
true, but not on
I was
I
Jeanette's
also
gonna
know
say,
that
he
movie
doesn't
that they
sound-
were talking about, and that movie will make any person swoon for him. That movie I watched about
Okay,
30 million
I'm just
times when I was in
saying-
high school.
All indications are that Mallory is straight. We're not getting any indication
that, though.
she's a lesbian. So I wondered if it is as simple as her freaking out, because the times that we see her freak out, it's with Vince. If it is as much as she has a crush on Vince, which is rather tragic, actually.
that could be, because she
And-
makes the
and
comment
she
about
doesn't
saying he's in love with
understand
Jeanette.
why Vince doesn't. He's a cute kid, I can see it.
Yeah, that could
Um,
be.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think that we've seen every indication that she's straight, but I think that the theory that she likes Vince makes sense based on her emotions
Mhm.
there.
I won't say
Yeah.
every indication, but I haven't seen any indication that she's not straight from her interactions.
True.
In my opinion.
Other
So-
than how mad she got when Jeanette started dating Jamie, when she found out that she had sex with Jamie, and then when Kate wanted to be friends with her. Other than that, but
Yeah,
I
but
mean, even
I
those
mean,
are not clear cut. She's attracted to him, so it's not a clear cut thing.
Right. And also it could be, just being jealous of your friend. Like if you think that should be happening to you and it's happening to her,
I think hers is mostly just abandonment issues. And we know that her father left. And I think, she just gets, when people leave her, or, she feels like they're leaving her. I think that's
Yeah, which is crazy because she's the one who left Jeanette.
Right.
Well, we think.
Right.
Well, we
don't
think.
know.
I don't know. I believe Jeanette though when she said, "I'm right here. I've been here the whole time."
Who was she
Well,
talking about when
I don't
she
know. I
said you
disagree.
sound just like her? Who was she talking about? That's what I want to know. Because I thought Kate Wallace is who she was talking about.
I thought Kate is
You
who
also-
she was
But that would mean that they
Alright,
had
I
to have
don't
been friends before.
I don't know. I think what she meant was she was confident in her voice and in her speaking.
Oh, that could be.
Because if you hear like young Jeanette, she's really 15-year-old Jeanette stutters a little bit and is really not, I won't say actual stutter, but that's the only way I can describe it. She's very, very shy and very,
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and then the more confident and everything, she just doesn't sound like Jeanette anymore, I think is what. But I don't know. I could be wrong. She could have been talking about somebody else.
Amanda, Jeanette, were you going to say something too?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't know if I believe that Jeanette was still trying to be friends with her, because we saw in this episode, is it Renee and Tennille? I can't remember. It's Tennille and somebody, the two friends.
Riley, was it?
The two
Riley?
popular friends. Something. It starts with an R.
Vapid
But
Vipers.
just the way that they kind of made the comment about Gideon. So if Jeanette became friends with them,
yeah.
there is no way that they would have allowed her to be friends with somebody like Vince and Mallory. I mean, they just wouldn't
Mhm.
have done it. And I'm sure Jeanette probably chose them.
You know what I don't understand? I don't know why those two girls would care. Like, if she's on a date with this weirdo or
Because
not.
that's, I
You
feel like
know,
that's just,
you think they were just insanely mean?
those are just mean girls. I feel like I've known so many just like them.
Yeah,
you know,
I guess
I mean,
so. I just can't imagine caring that much.
That's because we're more
I
rational
think they
people.
really care. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more of like, they're just the kind of people that would just take any opportunity to kind of put somebody down, you know?
And you see that
Yeah.
clearly when they're talking to the reporters in 1995.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, they were awful. I was like, oh my God, girls.
Yeah.
And I was like, do they really think this is going to get aired? Because this was supposed to be. I hope to God no legitimate news organization aired that crap, because
Well, it's a small community. Maybe they're really hard up for news.
it was just mean. They were just being plain.
They haven't had a
mean.
good killing in a while.
So speaking of Gideon, can we talk about Gideon?
Yes,
I love
okay.
him
I love
so
him.
much.
I have a question
We
about
have
him.
so much more.
Where did he come from?
It says he's visiting his grandma
Get
for the
How
summer.
do they know him? There was
Yeah,
no
we don't know
background
how
story
they do it.
whatsoever on him. I wanted that so bad. I want to know
I
because there has to be
know.
a significance
got
that he was
the
put in there.
He's probably a
I
neighbor
got the
or something.
impression that Cindy knew his grandma, because
Oh,
she said,
maybe.
say hi to your grandma for me. So I wonder if Cindy ran into the grandma at like the grocery store. She's like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's probably a
Like,
small town. He's probably
Yeah.
spends every summer with his grandma. And so it's not like Gideon's new to them. They probably at least have, seen him before and stuff. So
Mhm.
and
that's
it's
just
probably
my
like a
impression.
neighbor. Yeah. So.
Mhm. Thank you. So I loved him and I was really mad at Jeanette
I was
for the way
really
she
mad
treated
at
him.
that
That was a
too.
horrible
It
thing for her to
actually
do.
made me not like Jeanette.
Yeah,
For a
That was
second.
horrible.
But like
Trying to act
at the same
so cool.
time, I would love to say that like I was better than that, or I'm thinking of it as like an adult, and we're saying, as an adult watching it, I'm like, oh, that's so mean. But then I know what kids did. And I know, and so I would love to think I wouldn't have done that. But
I don't think I would
I
have.
don't think I would have ever have left him though.
No, I don't think I would have
just
left
was
him.
like, that just
I mean, I
but
might
like
have.
what's up with Mallory and Vincent? Like, what was did she give an excuse as to where Gideon was?
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
did?
She said he went home sick.
Where was it?
Mhm.
He
went home
said
sick.
that Jeanette got sick, but Jeanette said that he
That's
got
also what
sick.
Jeanette told to Vincent and
Okay.
Mallory.
Okay.
I mean, that's
I
that's,
must have
that's the easiest no-brainer excuse that you could probably give. That's why
Yeah.
they both gave it, probably.
I was gonna say, I was like, what's wrong with them? Are they just like, oh well, Gideon left?
I don't think there was any love lost there between Vince and Mallory and Gideon, though.
No. I don't think I
Yeah.
could.
I mean, he could probably, I don't know. But just the whole thing with Jeanette, that whole scene with Jeanette and Gideon just drove me up the wall. The whole trying to sound like she's cool, like she knows all these people. She don't know anyone. And
See, that was more understandable to me that she would do something like that. Because I mean, she was just
try
trying
to
to
make
look
herself
cool.
sound cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's age appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to-
Especially to
I love
someone
this
like
little
him that
dance.
doesn't know them, and can't really vouch for the fact that she's not friends with them. She can kind of make up her own story and sound a little bit,
I
better.
love this little dance. It seems like the type of dance I do to like embarrass my daughter.
That's absolutely how I dance.
It was so cute.
Yeah.
Moving on from Gideon, I want to dive into Jamie a little bit here.
Yeah.
Now,
James.
when they were in the car, and he says, "I'm sorry I was late to pick you up. My mom just gave me extra chores." Now, obviously, we know that his mom relatively recently found out that he punched Jeanette, and that's a bad thing, and his mom was upset. But even when she was asking Greg and Derek to leave, it was more about, don't talk to my son. Leave my son alone. More than,
Yeah.
I can't believe you punched me. So I don't know that's what it is. And the way he says it is so
Well-
guilty because, one, if that's the case, he would have known about it beforehand that he was having extra chores because he would have gotten in trouble the day it happened, right? So wouldn't he have warned her ahead of time hey, I'm going to be late, or hey, I won't be able to pick you up until this time because I have extra chores. Why would he just not communicate any of that with her when he was there all the time? He was with her all the time. Why wouldn't he just say that? But instead show up incredibly late to pick her up to go do something they plan to do. So
Yeah.
I
He's not
think,
doing chores.
what?
What'd you say?
He's not doing chores.
No, I don't think so. I think that he was with Jeanette. I think that morning when she was brushing her teeth, she was exceedingly happy. She was
Oh.
really, really happy that morning. They had kissed not that long before then. And so I think that last minute he went to be with Jeanette, and that's why he was late to pick her up. But it's also why he panic gaslighted her. And why Jeanette was so happy that morning, why Jeanette was so happy to go to the fair even. And she kept saying, I don't want to hurt Jeanette. I want to get this straightened out. I don't think she wanted to get straightened out anything other than, hey, I want you to know that Jamie's still with me. Hey, no hard feelings, I'm with Jamie. Because she's that delusional that she actually, because she even says to her brother at one point, I think, whatever the Vapid twins' names are, I think that they're just twisting Kate's words again. So I think she really believes that Kate doesn't really believe this stuff and that it's coming from other people. I think she thinks that the biggest problem is that she's with Jamie and Kate doesn't like that. So if I just talk to her about how much Jamie and I love each other, it'll all go away. This will be better.
Yeah, because really, that seems to be her main concern is the fact that she's lost Jamie. Not that she's being blamed for, seeing her kidnapped and not reporting it. I mean, so
yeah.
Poor
and then
girl.
when Jamie says, "Can we just move on from that?" It's a way to stop bringing it because one, he's with both girls. And I think that he doesn't want to continue dealing with the outfall of that because he's not that intelligent of a guy. And I don't think that he'll be able to effectively keep coming up with excuses and lies of why he's doing what he's doing. But also because he has no defense for doing it if she keeps bringing it up. So I think that that's what he says, because it's a weird thing to say, right? Can we just move past that? It's, I don't know, just the way it happens, the way it's said, it just felt weird. But he also wants Kate to forget his violent streak, I think.
I think he does too.
And I think that's a big deal.
Well,
But then,
even
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no, like when she gets out of the car, the way he like bangs on that steering wheel is just really like, I don't know. It was like, whoa, this guy is like really violent.
And like when we heard him, one of the first things she said to Jamie in regards to Jeanette wasn't even about the kiss or wasn't even about dating her. It was you're going around and hitting girls now. Like that's something you're doing, like and what really made me sad about it is that she didn't seem that surprised by it. Now that I go back, it seems like disappointed, I guess, but not shocked, and I wonder, because we don't know anything about Jamie's father, it does make you wonder if there's some part of, if he, if his mother was abused or is being abused by his father. We don't know. I mean, it could be something that could be why she wanted to keep it private, but was also kind of, you could tell she was immediately alarmed that he was hitting a girl, like. I
mean, I think any parent would be.
Oh, they would be, but it is an aspect of that if that's why, Kate, I don't know. I mean, violent behavior, especially towards women, is a learned behavior, right? Like a lot of
not always, but most
not
of the
always,
time.
but
yeah.
But then he drinks a lot, so there's that too, and he's a kid, so.
Does he drink a lot though until 95?
I don't know. He may not drink a lot actually. He may not drink a lot till 95, and we don't know that
he likes sex before then, but I don't think he likes to drink a lot before then.
Yeah, you're probably right. I might be getting my time frames.
But I think too that like when he couldn't tell Kate he wanted to be with her either. Like he just couldn't say that explicitly. When she said, what he said when she said, "Do you want to be with me?" He said, "Why would you ask that?" He didn't say, "Of course I want to be with you." He paused for a really long time, which should have been a super big red flag, and then said, "Why would you ask that?" Still not.
Well, and he also, without calling her a liar, questioned her memory.
Yeah. And so,
which would really play into the whole him talking to Jeanette still and believing what Jeanette's saying, but still not thinking, you know what I'm saying? That Kate is he's not saying that Kate's like trying to throw Jeanette under the bus, but you can tell he
No, he
doesn't
threw
really
Jeanette under the bus
saying, yeah.
because he said what he said was Jeanette's a psycho, and a really, really weird way to say this is, I don't associate with people like that.
Yeah.
Did that feel
Well,
weird to
maybe
anybody
you're
else? And
calling
that's what he
Yeah.
said when
Yeah.
she said, "Do you want to be with me?" His response is, "I don't associate with people like that." Still not, yes, I want to be with you. It's, I don't associate with that. So it feels like he's hiding something. I
Right.
mean, that's a very practiced, almost legal line to say.
Well, and it's also like, I don't want, Jeanette's crazy, Jeanette's a psycho, but then calling it Kate's memory and Kate's opinions, basically saying that she's, imagining things and implying that she's also, not in right mind, so it's kind of, I don't know. I was like, okay, Jamie, what are we going with here? Is that really what you want to say?
And I mean, the typical abuser will kind of tell you, yeah, go get help. But then the moment you're actually getting help, then they do the gaslighting.
Which is exactly what he's doing, right? He wants her to go get therapy, but the minute she starts using any tips or any questions that she learns in therapy, he's like, oh, no.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, Jeanette, I know you had a lot to say about Jamie too.
I mean, I feel like it's all, I mean, it's the same stuff we're talking about, just seeing some of his like violent behavior. I mean, the punching of, the steering wheel stood out to me, and then just the way he spoke to her. And it was just, like I said, I think earlier too, I mean, the way he even started with like, I love you, that's real. I mean, it was just, it's such typical emotional abuse that it just really stood out to me.
Mhm.
And I mean, I appreciate that, he eventually admitted he was wrong, but I mean, I don't know.
I mean, but that took
feel
him a whole year.
little too late for that, and I don't know.
And who was he
Jamie
mad at
just
when he was hitting
done
the
with
steering wheel?
Jamie. Himself. I mean, more himself. I mean, because he knows he did it, and he knows that,
You think he's mad at himself when he's doing that?
yeah. But I don't understand why he's so adamant. And maybe for him, it's about impressions too. Like, because I don't think he really loves Kate. I think maybe he cares for Kate. They've been dating for however long it was. But I wonder if it's more of, this is the person he's supposed to be with.
Yep.
And it would be his image if he was to leave her for Jeanette, who has all these horrible rumors. But I do think he loves her, and as much as he can.
Yeah, that's why he's still seeing her.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that Kate had it right on. She said, are you just with me because you feel like I have to, because I was kidnapped and I came out? That makes sense.
And I was proud of her in that moment for not like buying into that, for calling him out on what he was saying, that, using her memories against her like that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go ahead and kind of cover the scrunchie? Because that's going to be something.
Yes, that's in my notes too.
Yeah. That's,
yeah.
I think Martin would have kept it if Jeanette didn't see him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. He had a hard time giving it up when she was standing right there.
Yeah.
And do we think he was keeping it like just to be creepy, or was he keeping it as a way of, I'll find a way to see her again if I've got this scrunchie and I can get it back to her, or whatever it is?
Really creepy, like a token.
So creepy.
Souvenir.
So weird. Yeah.
So what about Martin's interaction with Jeanette? Because it was almost like he has
each other.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
I feel like they're real familiar with each other.
Yeah, and I wonder his reaction to what she did to Gideon. I mean, was this something, maybe was he bullied as a kid like Gideon, and this was a reaction to that?
That's what I said.
But also, I mean, like, he was so sweet with Kate, and then he just kind of switched it on a dime, which almost, to me, maybe confirmed the theory that he might be the one with the split personality. Just in the way that he all of a sudden became almost like a different person when he was speaking to Jeanette.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I think that is because I think he was Gideon.
I think so too.
You're right there.
They're everywhere.
I think that's why he reacted the way he did. I think, but he also asks, "Do you want to feel humiliated and alone?" Is what he asked Jeanette.
Mhm.
That's exactly what he did to Kate. Maybe he was trying to feel out which girl he was. I think he was attracted to Kate, but I think he also wanted to punish Jeanette. So what if this was just
Yeah.
maybe Kate was just the tip of the iceberg, and he said to her, would you want to be humiliated and alone?" And that's exactly what he did to Kate. And I think that he said that while holding on to the scrunchie of the girl, he was already scheming to humiliate and force her to be alone.
So do we think that he's maybe been the reason, like that she believes that Jeanette was there? Maybe this is all a plan to like
Possibly. I didn't think about that
alienate
until you
her.
said that.
Well, it's when you said to punish her and to feel alone, and that's kind of where Jeanette is now.
Mhm.
That she's completely alone. I mean, no one believes her. She has no one on her side. So I wonder if this is some sort of, it's kind of a huge step for just, embarrassing some kid. But
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
that he was Gideon. And I
Yeah.
think that he was probably Gideon his entire life, even most of his adulthood. We don't
Mhm.
know why he left that other place he left.
And do we think he knows that she took that book?
Yes. I think
I
that
think
when
so.
she said that, and that's my next note, is that when she says that you're from Willow Falls or whatever it is, the
Mhm.
look on his face, I don't think he knew right away, but I think that it almost like ticked something in his brain like, oh, wait, how do you know that? And I think he was thinking about it, and I think he
Yeah.
put the pieces together. And I
Mhm.
think it finally clicked when he saw Jeanette walking by again. And I think that's part of why he wanted to punish her, because she was in his house taking his things, and she's just one more person who's making him like Gideon.
Mhm. Well, and because she said that her dad must have told her, but what if he didn't tell Greg that?
Oh, he didn't. I don't
And
think he would have
so
told
I
him that.
mean, yeah.
Especially if he
So
was
I think,
hiding where he came from,
mhm.
which I think is, I mean, if
I
he's
don't know why
this
you keep the
predatory,
yearbook. Yeah.
well, it's probably special to him, but if he's this predatory, there's
here.
probably a reason why he left where he was at last. And maybe
Probably.
maybe we don't know what kind of town that Willow Falls was. Maybe it's what town do they live in now?
Skyland.
Skyland. Yeah, maybe
Mhm.
that's the same type of town where everyone goes to high school there, grows up there, stays there as an adult. Maybe that was him, but he had to leave because of something. I mean, we don't know why he
Yeah.
left.
I mean, if it was a huge scandal with a student or something, he wouldn't. I mean, even in the 90s, that's really unrealistic that he would get another job.
Well, maybe he didn't get caught
In the
though.
States, at least. Hmm?
Maybe he didn't get caught at the other.
Or maybe he wasn't able to go through with it all the way.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
something interrupted a kidnapping and he couldn't go through there.
Yeah,
So before he was called out, before anything happened, before he actually made the decision, he moved to start over.
Yeah.
And maybe he learned from his mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is, but I think that that's.
Oh, I think something
What happened.
definitely happened in the old town to make him
Mhm.
leave. I think there's something there.
And did we all notice that when Jeanette put the scrunchie away, she put it in her prized place?
Mhm.
That's where she put the
Her
key.
jewelry
That's where she
box.
put the necklace. But those are the only three things we've seen her put in there. And each one of them has an incredible.
That's where she was hiding the joint was in there too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
So each thing has a very important thing. And I think that she viewed that as highly valuable. I think that she even, I would dare to say, valued that above the other things that were in there. Because it was Kate Wallace.
Yeah.
That's the life that she wanted. That's what she wished for. And so I think that there is something to that. I think taking the scrunchie was her first step to trying to be Kate. Not be her as in take over her life,
Mhm.
but be her as in emulate her in every single way. If she has this one piece of her that could jumpstart her into doing it, I think she was desperate for the popularity.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Go, Amanda.
Yeah.
I feel like we're seeing more of Greg doubting Jeanette
Mm-hmm.
now.
That's who I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Me too.
Surprise.
Go, Amanda. Tell me your thoughts.
That's all I had. What are you talking about? No, I think he is. I think he's really is starting to doubt Jeanette's story. He's not,
Mhm.
but also we don't know why.
Yeah.
Why
He made me mad.
yeah. I was kind
I
of
think,
with him.
like I get that he's lost a lot. But his talk with her, he put a whole lot on that kid about his life falling apart. And I mean, just as a parent trying to think about it, I'm not sure that I could do that to my kid. I mean, until I have like physical evidence that they've done something, I'm not sure that I can turn my back on them like that.
I think he talked to her wrongly. There's frustration and there's anger, and especially when you were obscenely close with an individual and they've completely changed and they're shutting you out and you can't reach them. And I think that that's where a lot of it's coming from with him, because it was never about her and her mom. She was always daddy's little girl.
Mm-hmm.
The picture was of him and Jeanette, not even the three of them. And I think the fact that she's not daddy's little girl, or as she may still be daddy's little girl, but he's not the daddy's little girl that he remembers. And it's a loss of, I think it's a loss of her not being his world anymore, you know?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
the other way. She's, he's not her world. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not the most important. And he hasn't been the most important guy for a while, but he could still be in the game.
Yeah.
And even though there's no other guy involved now, he feels like he's not even at that. You know what I'm saying? Because she doesn't even, acknowledge, except unless she needs to. He has to go and acknowledge her. But I mean, he's trying. I mean, I
would have thought that in this
can't
last
imagine being in
episode,
this situation. So
he put too much blame on her, in my opinion. I mean, he blamed her for, his career, his marriage falling apart, everything, and that's too much to put on her.
She did not turn her mother into an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean it was implied pretty heavily in this episode, in my opinion. I mean, that was the start of the decay to their marriage, was her sitting on the couch all day drinking.
Day drinking.
Day drinking. And and I think, just because she may or may not have messed up,
Mm-hmm.
did not ruin his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other aspects of that he allowed to happen, or that happened to have nothing to do with that, really.
I mean, even if she is the reason for all of this, I feel like that's just too much to put on your kid.
Well, you don't blame your kids for divorce.
No.
Right? You just don't do that. And you don't blame your kids for losing your job, But I can also say, as someone who does have a teenage daughter, that sometimes you say things you don't mean. But I'm getting the impression he might mean it, which is kind of sad.
That's what he said things kind of like that in every episode so far. Even thinking back to the first episode with her birthday. I mean, I understand that like times have changed, but you're like, oh, Jeanette, get up. Like, without even I don't know. He just, I know he's in a bad place. But
yeah.
You also need to remember that it's not just this one time he said something to her. He's been telling her, look at you effed up my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and also he's effing up. Like, he's acting awful. I will say there has to be some hesitation on his part that he is trying to, like,
I don't think he's trying anymore.
Yeah, he's trying to help her. He's got her very good lawyers. They're trying. She's being rude to the lawyer. She's not wanting to get up. She's not being nice to anybody. She doesn't seem like she wants to be here. So, like, I think anyone would have hesitation with that. Like, is there something she's trying to hide,
I don't think it was her idea to get a lawyer either. And I think that's part of why she's acting the way she is with that.
Maybe.
I think it was her parent. I think it was probably her mom.
Oh, you think so? Yeah.
Because when we look at how she is with them, going forward the trial, she's acting like she doesn't want to be a part of this, like she doesn't want to do anything. So I think her dad, maybe at her mom's pushing, hired them when he made the comment about making it to the press or leaking it to the press. I assumed it was about Jeanette, but he doesn't explicitly say, Jeanette, you leaked it to the press. How good did that do you? What he just said is, Yeah, well, we thought leaking it to the press would be good too. How did that turn out? So maybe it was the
Yeah.
woman pushing to leak it, or maybe her mom's pushing to leak it. But I don't think she wanted this. I think
Right.
that Jeanette wants to disappear, not be more visible. And this lawsuit just made her more visible. I think that before Jamie she did, but if you look at the way Jamie says to her, the Wallaces always win. And then he
Mhm.
said, go back to that little girl you were. When they zoom in on her
Derek, yeah.
face, it's Derek. What did I say? Davis?
Jamie,
Oh, Derek said that to her.
Derek.
By the way, I have a note, just one note
And-
says, I love Derek in all capital letters.
I
Absolutely.
love Derek too.
But when he says that to her and he says, go back, and she says, I can't, there's a certain level of fear in her voice and on her face. So I think that was the moment that she realized what this was going to do to her. I think that it was at that moment that she just kind of thinks that, okay, well, this is going to be my life now, and I'm kind of screwed, and this is going to be really bad for me. And so I think it was at that moment that she started to pull back. I'm trying to find the other note I wrote on that because I said something else, but I think that at that time when she wanted to pull back is when her parents hired the lawyer, when her dad hired the lawyer.
Yeah.
And then her dad, he also says he never says he's on her side, not once. He
No.
says, I will
No.
tell people you were
Mhm.
good. I will tell people this. And then that offhand remark of I mean, what he doesn't say is he tells her all the things that she cost him. That's what he says.
Yeah, that is true.
And so he insinuates that she thinks she could have done worse than what she's accused of. And I think in his head, this is worse. You didn't just not tell the cops. You destroyed an entire family. And I think that's what he's
Yeah.
getting to there, because he is putting that on there. So I do have a question of when did his support for her waver, because he had stood by her side. He had been there over and over and over again.
What do we speaking of Greg, what about his first meeting with Angela in the video store?
Absolute sparks from the very beginning.
Oh
It
yeah.
bugged
Yeah.
me because, up until this point, I thought, Greg is this really upstanding, like wonderful husband. And then to see him kind of flirt with her kind of bugged me.
Yeah.
Was he really flirting, or was he just being a salesman?
He
I
totally
don't know.
gave
I
him
think he was walking a
her
fine
heart.
line there, but I don't know that he was overtly flirting. The
I
smile
don't
at first,
know.
yes, but his
It
career was
was
also
flirting.
waiting. And if he could get, I think the emphasis there was because, I mean, you look at what he said to her, to Jeanette,
Yeah.
because of you, I lost my career. And then with her, his excitement was, so you're new to town. Well, I'm the best realtor in town to you new person who's never been here before. It's
I
kind of how he
guess.
worded it.
All I'm
Yeah.
saying is if my husband spoke that way
Oh,
to some
my
pretty
husband
lady he
was
just
probably-
met.
A woman
not
that
gonna be
looked
okay
like
with it.
that at a video
Regardless-
store like that, I would be very upset. Yes.
I mean, even Vince, I feel like Vince even picked up on it because he was like, and I'm
Right.
Vince. Like, sorry
Yeah,
to
he
interrupt
totally
you
did.
too. You know?
What
Well,
I
you know,
think
if you
more-
if the 16-year-old boy is picking up on this, like
Vince isn't like your average 16-year-old boy, I will just say.
I'll say that, but still, like, but you know what thing I will say, I was impressed with her from the beginning,
Mhm.
and
I like her.
yeah, and one of the things I loved, and I even said, when returning my husband, I said that was really cute, how Vince is like, I'm Vince, and she goes, and like, she, without, ending the conversation with Greg, she just turned, she goes, hi, Vince. Like, she acknowledged that he
Right.
actually spoke to her, and like, a lot, even, a lot of adults who would just ignore the kid who just said that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wouldn't even, I don't know. I just thought it was really cool. I like her a lot.
I think
I
too
like
that we
her
have
too.
to remember that when he's at the video store, he just came from day drinking Cindy, and this woman who
Yeah.
no longer has any regard for anybody. And I don't think, I didn't realize at first that was that the day she got her car spit on was the same day that she was sitting on the couch. I didn't connect
Yeah,
those
it
dots
was. It was just
Yeah.
until the
like
second I
that.
watched it. But I think that Greg was more disappointed that she couldn't be better and stronger and set that example for Jeanette. And he was thoroughly disappointed in his wife. And this wife is clearly has no more regard for the family or him. And then he goes in this video store. I think more so it was, what's the bartender's name? Because in all my notes, I wrote the bartender.
Angela.
Angela.
Okay. I think that she obviously felt something for Greg. I think Greg allowed her to continue flirting with him because I think he enjoyed feeling that way. So I think that was I don't think he was flirting with her, but I think his fault was, I enjoy this attention you're giving me, and I'm going to let you keep giving me that attention. I'm going to let you keep flirting with me because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
which is
Well, right.
not
too.
even that's not that much better, but I don't think he was flirting with her.
There was some woman who was acknowledging his manliness, his just himself as a man, and was being polite, and she's very attractive, and his wife is a train wreck right now. So like, and let's just be honest, that's how affairs happen, right? Or that's one of the way, like you meet somebody in their low point. And so yeah, I'm not defending. Yeah, I feel like I'm defending Greg a little too much. Like, not, I just want to give it the opposite, because I think deep down he is a good father, and I think deep down he is probably one of the only people on Jeanette's side purely at this
Derek.
point. Derek, and I agree with him. And Vince, I said one of them. I said.
Oh, I thought you said the one.
No, I said one of them. Sorry. And I think Angela too. I think Angela really likes him. I would love to know some of her backstory, because she seems to defend, Jeanette a lot to Greg. And a part of that could be like a certain level, like when she said, there's nothing wrong with her. She's not a sociopath. She's a teenage girl, I mean, she obviously Greg was never a teenage girl, and he does, you know what I'm saying? So, all of that. And I do think there's a problem where he's wanting to get her a lawyer and not a therapist. I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, she needs therapy too,
That's a good point.
When your daughter one day wakes up and she no longer looks like herself, and I'm not just saying, like little things, but when she's no longer, like, her personality completely changes overnight, that's something, even if you think these are positive changes, it's something to be alarmed with, right? Like, you don't just wake up one day and you're a totally different person, And
that seems to be the only way that Jeanette changes.
Yeah, which is weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is something that's kind of a red flag with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I found the note that I wanted to bring up before about when Derek told her Jeanette to go to the little girl she was. I think she knew that she'd never be unnoticed again. And I think that she couldn't become the innocent that she was before. I think that's more of what she meant, because she's seen too much, she knows too much, and there's still something that she's hiding. Jeanette's not innocent in this. I don't think she's guilty in the way everyone thinks she is, but she's not innocent in this. So I don't think she can go back, and that she becomes the Jeanette of 95 because of that. She's darker. She's trying to blend in with the shadows, as opposed to 94 when she's trying to come out into the light and be the face of everything. 95, we see her try to blend in. We see her try to pull back, try to hide behind everything. And I think that she wants to be so physically undesirable so she's not sought after. And in doing so, she's building that enormous wall around herself. And I think that ties into when they're doing karaoke, which I love that scene, because
oh my gosh, that scene
for no other reason, because that song is awesome.
That song,
that song is so good. Like,
as Jeanette sings, you can kind of see the walls falling. I think that's why they go into the slow-mo aspect of it, where she's jumping and she's singing. You actually see the real smile on her face. The walls start to fall and she feels free and she feels joy. And I think that's why the panic happens, because every time she ever felt that way, whether it was freedom, whether it was joy, pain came. Kindness seemed to be an assistance to hatred to her. Like in basketball, you have an assist and then you have the basket. Kindness seemed to be an assist to hate. And so Jeanette knows she's in a prison of her own making. And she's the one who put it there. She's aware of it because she put it there on purpose. So when Angela's trying to be this nice person to her and come in and try to break down those walls, there's an instant fear of, okay, well, when I felt free, I was stealing from Martin's house, and that completely backfired. When I felt pure joy and kindness, I got punched in the face by my boyfriend. When I felt that everything was going to be right if I just told the truth, I got blacklisted and outcast, and I'm worth nothing, and I would be better off dead right now. So I think that every time there's kindness for her, she gets slammed with some sort of hatred. And I think that Angela noticed that. That's what I like about her character so much, is she had some awesome, I don't remember, I don't see my note on it, but I wrote a note of, she's got some really, really good advice and good comebacks. And I really like some of the things she said. I'm going to start using those on people.
And I think that last scene of like Jeanette kind of, I mean, even though her having a panic attack, I think it really like kind of humanized like 95 Jeanette. Because
Yeah.
before that, we've seen her just so harsh and like really hard to like that version of her. But I think that panic attack, I mean, really just showed the pain that she's in underneath it all. And so I thought it was good to kind of see that.
Well, you know, like it also humanized Kate in a way in the first episode when we saw her, you know, doing a similar type thing with the zombies, you know, with the cranberry
Mhm.
sauce. And so it's like, and you know, and I think I was telling, you know, my husband about this because it's something so genius about the show that it's written, you know, that it's geared towards, you know, younger girls now and college students, but yet they have stuff like that where their parents or, you know, can totally relate to, because how many of us have it, you know, scream wannabe or zombie at the top of our lungs while doing some crazy dancing, you know, like we've all done it. And I was doing it today, for goodness sakes, after I heard that song. So, so it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just something, it really makes me feel for these girls because I was that girl, you know, and I know, so. But I was like, okay, so I love the music on this show, but I was laughing. I'm like, at what point they mentioned grunge, they mentioned all this stuff. We have not had one Nirvana song. Isn't that weird?
Maybe they're not deep enough for Nirvana.
Maybe.
Maybe we haven't gotten there yet.
That's true.
But not one Alanis, not one No Doubt. Like,
I think too, something else that added humanity to and a likability to Jeanette's character is how she was trying to protect Angela. Because when you see her looking at when you see her looking at the papers, she kept throwing in the paparazzi thing. She kept saying all these things about how the vipers, the bloodsuckers, all this stuff. And I think that's why she keeps throwing the publicity and the ruthlessness of the paparazzi to Angela, because she's trying to give her an opportunity to run.
Yeah.
She's trying to say, hey, don't associate with me because those vipers, they follow me everywhere I go. You can't get out. And all these things that she's saying, she's reaching out to protect Jeanette. So I think the other aspect that for me brought humanity to her character is that this is the first episode where we see that her walls are just as much to protect her as they are to protect everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, you know, everyone leaves her, like, or everyone changes when they're around her. So you have someone like her dad, and then you have someone like her mom, who, like, she partially probably blames for, you know, the decay of their lives, right? Or their, you know, well, she's being physically blamed by her father this episode. So it's like, you can't, and she sees Angela, who's a relatively normal human, you know, like she's a good woman. She's got her shit together, right? And so, sorry, didn't mean it. She's got her stuff together, and so she, you know, she doesn't want to ruin her too. But
Yeah.
I think Angela's pretty strong. I think she can handle it.
I don't think Jeanette's plan works very well, but I think it's her attempt to just backfire spectacularly.
But like I said, I just would love to know why Angela is so, like, fiercely protective of Jeanette. Besides that she just wants to be nice to a teenage girl who's struggling. But there might be something, you know.
Yeah, I think she's been there.
Yeah.
Amanda, do you have the Facebook comments pulled up of the discussion questions?
I did.
I waited too long, didn't I?
That's fine. I can get there fast. Okay. So
Well, real quick before you do that, did anyone remember what it looked like in '93 when Jamie threw the ball at the dunk tank? Anybody else pick up on why that was weird?
No, I didn't. I guess I didn't notice.
He throws like a girl.
He does.
But like a 4-year-old girl, not like a teenager, a softball player. Like he throws like a 4-year-old girl. His leg, even like, you know, in those movies where it's like the kiss and the foot pop. His leg did that, and it scrolled around the back of him, and he like kind of like and that was what
They
it was.
really should have hired somebody else.
I mean, they did it for Kate. They saw her right here as the ball was by her head, and then you just saw nothing else. Why didn't they say Jamie?
No, right?
I mean, what's his name? Guy? Is that his name? The
Froy.
actor? Froy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna get so mercilessly mocked
He
by
is.
people from that. Yes.
I haven't seen it on Reddit because I've been trying to avoid it. But
Just
I mean,
ridiculous.
there's whole things on Reddit dedicated to that.
Yeah, it was
Poor
insane.
guy.
Amanda, yeah, could you read those comments? And the question post, obviously.
Yes. So I'm just gonna read off the post that Jeanette posted today.
This is from our Facebook group.
Yes. This one is, what are your thoughts on Jamie after this episode?
Girly.
Hmm. All right. So Lindsay said that was so low what he did, but he owned it eventually. But he's pretty much a dirtbag in my eyes.
Jeanette's nodding over here.
Agreed.
Let's see. Tammy said, we didn't learn anything new. We knew he kissed Jeanette. We knew that Kate saw it. We knew that he lied about it. I can appreciate that he finally told her the truth and apologized, but he cannot undo the self-doubt that he caused. Also, why is he always parked outside Jeanette's house?
Yeah.
I think that ties into, I think he's seeing Jeanette the whole time he's seeing Kate.
Yeah.
And Kate dumps him and then he's got nothing left, but Jeanette won't see him.
All right.
Sorry,
We'll move on
segue.
to a different question.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think Cindy's day drinking could be foreshadowing to where she is in 1995? Do we think she's maybe in rehab? Tabitha said, I think her dad made her leave. I think she's talking about Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Greg made her leave.
I mean, that would fit.
Which would be ironic though, if he makes her leave because she's a drunk and now he's a drunk. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he really drunk? Is he drunk though, or does he just have some beers?
I don't know. He seems like he's putting them away all the time.
Yep.
But that would kind of make an alcoholic. I mean, when you're
Yeah.
an alcoholic, a lot of
Maybe
times
he's
you
just a
don't
high
seem
functioning
drunk.
alcoholic.
Yeah. I think he's drunk most of the time just to cope with life.
All right. Cheyenne said, I believe she just left. She thought Jeanette was lying. She didn't like all the negative attention that was surrounding them. And she seems to care more about keeping up her appearances than what happens to her family.
Oh,
Oh, that was maybe though.
she
I mean,
is not a Cindy fan.
Most of the people on here are saying that they think Greg made her leave.
I think she's in rehab.
Well, I do too. And I think it goes back to what did we talk about it last time in Derek's word choice on why don't you take mom's
Yeah.
calls? Not why don't you call mom? Why don't you answer when mom calls? But why don't you take her calls? So,
Or
I think
maybe
she's
there's
in
a hit
rehab
and run
too.
while she was drunk and she's in prison. I mean,
That could be too. I mean, I think she's somewhere where it's not like
inaccessible.
they can't call her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think too. And I think that they probably, I mean, their marriage was obviously on the rocks in that episode. We could see it. So I think they probably made the decision to leave. Maybe that's why she got so hammered and she had a hit and run, because he was like, I can't do this anymore.
Maybe.
Could be.
Is there another one?
Yep, I'm going to move on to another question of what did you think of Martin's interaction with both Kate and Jeanette? We got some
Weird.
kind of good ones on here. All right, Angel said he was already plotting on Kate on how to make her his prey, and Jeanette brought back Jeanette brought back memories of his childhood, how he was picked on, bullied, and no girl wanted him after she left her date.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that triggered him,
Yep.
something in him.
I think he was definitely grooming her before that, but I could see that be a triggering event to finalize that.
Julia said, very creepy, but why did he seem so nice?
Exactly.
Let's see. Brittany said, I'm getting Norman Bates vibes.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's who it is.
it is
And see-
Norman Bates.
Maybe Annabelle is mother, right? gonna be the same type thing.
Ooh.
Let's see.
That's
She
a fun
said
theory.
he was Martin with Kate and Annabelle with Jeanette. Creepy how quickly he and Jamie both snap into completely different persons.
Wow.
Mhm. True.
I think Brittany has something
Yeah.
going on. And her comment got a lot of comments.
Do a lot of people agree with her?
Yeah, let's see. Catherine says she doesn't know what she means that maybe Martin is Annabelle, which we've kind of covered on that in the past.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people kind of agree with her.
Mhm.
Sounds like the Split movie.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
The what movie?
Split.
Oh.
I haven't seen that. I've heard.
Oh, that's
I
with
haven't
James
seen it, but
McAvoy, right?
Yes.
I love
I
him.
haven't seen it, but I love him.
It's
Me
a really
too.
good movie.
My husband wants
Now
to
I
watch
need
it
to
real
watch
bad.
Oh yeah. Okay. How have your opinions on Jeanette and Kate changed since the first episode? We don't have very many, but okay. Kelly says yes, 100%. Jeanette tricks me with the nerdy act. Can't believe she did Gideon like that. She was having fun, then flipped a switch just because she's obsessed with the popular crowd and totally lied to him when he already thought she was so cool. She could not accept the fact of being cool with Mallory and Vince. Kate also seems like she majorly changed after the kidnapping. She seemed genuinely good in 1993.
which I
Mhm.
think that's understandable.
Yeah.
You know.
She did change, absolutely.
Mhm. There should have been one more, Amanda. One more question. I don't know if you see it. The one about Angela.
Angela's, that was the next one.
I think with the Gideon thing too,
Oh,
though,
sorry.
when they were on the ride, she had said to Gideon, he's like, "Oh wow, you're friends with them?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm getting with their crowd."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, that was
Jamie was like,
interesting.
"Yeah, I'm getting to know him. Yeah, I'm getting to know okay." And then their friends came up, and I think she had to kind of keep up that appearance of I don't know why, but I think even to Gideon, she felt like she had to be like, "No, see, I am cool. I am in with that crowd." I wonder if that was
Yeah.
her.
That life so bad.
That's
All right.
depressing.
Our last question is what did you think of Angela's first meeting with Greg at the video store? What about her scene in 95 with Jeanette in karaoke? Did that seem to help humanize 1995 Jeanette? All right. Guys, I'm reading these before I read them. All right. Sydney said, personally, I like Angela a lot more than Jeanette's mom, even though I hate to say that.
I don't
During
hate to say
the
it.
police interview, you could see Jeanette's mother, Cindy's her name,
Mhm.
wasn't believing Jeanette one bit and even confessed to the father that she believed Jeanette was lying. Someone like Angela, a strong female figure who is on Jeanette's side, I believe can really help her. Let's see. Haley says, so far I'm wanting to love Angela. I really think that Jeanette is innocent of what she has been accused of. She may be guilty of something else, but I don't think she would have left her there because she wanted to be her friend too badly.
Mhm.
Even after she accuses Jeanette, she wants to talk to her and seems to want to work things out and be friends. To me, she does not seem to be afraid that she's going to get in trouble
Mm.
because she didn't do
Mhm.
anything. She really is naive innocence about her in 1994.
Hmm.
It's true.
I agree.
And I think Angela could be a great thing for her. She needs someone who can sympathize with her from what she's been through and treats her like a person and not a suspect.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But she said, but like I think all of us feel right now, this show kind of has me skeptical of everyone. And even though I don't want to believe it, in the back of my mind, I worry about the meeting wasn't by chance. I worry she may have placed herself in the lives on purpose to obtain information that no one has for maybe an article or a book. She doesn't strike me as being involved in the crime, but more of an aspiring writer or something of that nature.
I had that fleeting thought too.
Ooh, I like
Hmm.
that.
I know. It's kind of out there.
But see, now I'm going to think about that when I see
Mhm.
Angela.
Yeah.
I liked
She
her.
is the only one who doesn't change around Jeanette.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Well, now that's got me thinking. Yeah.
Oh no.
Or maybe
Can't
she's the one
trust
that bullets
anyone on
hired
this
for the
show.
hired gun.
Yes, because yeah,
Because
To get
we need to make her
information.
look more human. You need to pull her out of her shell. You need to make
Oh
her be a
yeah.
person. I know that it's late, so there's just
Yeah.
a couple things I want to talk about because I'm watching Jeanette get very tired over there.
I go to bed. It's late.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's just a couple more things I want to touch on before we end because we do need to end. Do we really think Jamie felt bad for Jeanette
I do.
when
I
he
do
used that as an excuse?
I do.
And then when he was talking to Kate, he said, "We both know." So I'm wondering, did Kate confess something to him that she was unsure if she saw Kate? Or maybe if she can't see them both, Jamie could keep seeing them both, like something like that. Because he said, "We both know." So I'm wondering if there's a conversation they had where she's like, I'm not really sure if I saw this.
I
I
didn't
think
catch
it's
that.
something
Maybe.
that she was talking about with her
What?
with her
Something over-
therapist. Well, I think she's mentioned it to her therapist and other things. I think that
Yeah, but Jamie wasn't there.
situation. Well, I'm going to assume that he has. I don't think it's necessarily anything about Jeanette or anything in that regards, but I think she has told him that maybe her memory hasn't been the same since she came back. I mean, that's not something
Yeah.
unusual to say to somebody. So
I don't know. I feel like there's something to that. Just the way he said it, I feel like there's more
it
to
could
it.
be. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
also with Jamie, did you guys notice the way he jumps when Kate says hi to him in 95? Almost. It's almost like he's not used to people talking to him except to punish him anymore.
Well, I mean, he's sitting there by himself drinking in 92.
Still,
Mhm.
the old Jamie, I think, was so popular and used to talking to people. I don't think he would have had the reaction.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like what I meant was like he was by himself. He wasn't surrounded by his entourage or anything like that, you know. And we already know something happened with Ben. Like we know that,
Yeah. And we
Quite
don't know if
quite.
they're friends
what
anymore.
but yeah. Yeah.
But
We don't
when
see
she
any
goes
of
up,
his other friends too, you know, like his I mean he had other friends, you know, the neighbor's kid and other people. So
I don't know that he had him in 95. But when she,
no,
when
I
she
don't think he did. What I mean is he did in 94, 93, and we're not seeing them in 95.
yeah,
We're seeing him saying he was supposedly dared to drink all that or something.
Yeah.
no, he was
and-
dared to steal the banner. They would give him a 6-pack
Oh,
if he
it's the
completed
banner.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when she said hi to him, not only did he jump, but like
Yeah.
he almost threw a shoulder over his face, like to protect himself from a hit.
Yeah.
That this is gonna be
Yeah.
audio, so no one listening to this can actually see what I'm doing with my body right now. But he like almost dove off the bench when she said it. So that's why I think that he was like, he's so not used to it that unless it's punishment, because he, like you would when you're an abused kid in a home, you would throw up your hands when you know your fist is coming at you, right?
Mhm.
And that's kind of how he
Mhm.
reacted. So I'm wondering if that's the other reason he sits outside Jeanette's house, because she's the only one who's as much of an outcast as him now.
Oh, there
Maybe.
was. Yeah. There was something I wanted to touch base, and I didn't know if you had another thing, but how cool! I don't know why I love that scene so much, but the scene where they destroyed the grave.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That
That was a really
it's just
powerful scene.
so I don't know. It was so awesome to me. I was just like, yeah, go get it. And I'm like, destroy property.
Well, it was Martin, so I don't think he should
It's
count.
his property. I don't give
Yeah.
a crap.
It's all good.
There's just 2 more points I want to go over, and then we can be done. I promise. But when Jamie telling her was something that he was completely honest about, and I think it held him captive for all those years, and I think that all the lies are holding everyone captive in 95, and I think that's why they're also altered, because I think every single one of them is hiding things. But you can tell, like when he finally confesses the truth, he almost breathes deep and sighs, and you could almost like see his whole body just relax. And I think every single person in that town, especially related to this case, is like wound up super tight because they're all holding some secret in, desperate to not get out. I think part of it's because they saw what happened to Jeanette. Who in their right mind, after seeing how Jeanette was treated after that, would want any secret to come out.
And the way Kate reacted to it, the fact that she gave him the kiss on the cheek, and the fact, you know, it wasn't. I don't think that he was thinking that him and Kate were going to get back together, or even if that was even an option. But I think what he was saying is someone was showing him kindness.
Yeah.
And I know that it feels like no one has shown him that in a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the very last thing
Agreed.
I want to talk about is Joy. Even the reporters noticed something weird there, right?
I know, right? Like she
I
was,
mean, when those reporters, they
You're
picked up on-
handling this exceptionally well,
Yeah.
considering.
and so she was ready to just breeze right on past him, right? She was like, nope,
Mhm.
I don't have time for you. But she only stops to talk when she has to put on an act to give a certain storyline that she
Mhm.
wants them to know.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only reason she stops. So what does Kate being, and the other thing was, what does Kate being tough as nails have to do with how Joy is reacting? That's what she said. Well, my Kate is as tough as nails. So are
That's
you?
not what we're.
Like,
Yeah.
And you could tell that her
Yeah.
husband picked up on how weird that was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because he said, well, she gets it from my wife. She's also as tough as nails. My wife is also as tough as nails. So even the
Ugh.
husband is starting to see cracks in Joy because the
Right.
reporters see it, and then she doesn't
She does.
defend herself at all. She just says, and so basically what she's saying is, my kid's fine. She can handle kidnapping. She's just fine. And her dad picked up on
Mhm.
that's what she was saying. So he's like, oh, wait, no. My wife is tough too. That's why she's handling it this way. So I think
No,
that
I
we'll see
agree.
something happened there pretty quickly.
And I noticed, speaking of Joy, this was something else that I noticed, that in '93 at the fair, I felt like it was so brave the way that Scott and Joy were acting in the
Yeah.
middle of
Right.
public. I mean,
Right?
like where anybody could see. I mean, they were.
Even when her husband was right between them.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
It was just so awkward.
I think that's just more fuel for the fire that they have known each other forever. And that,
Mhm.
you know, that Rod and everyone else would just throw this off like that's how they've always been. You know, they've always been best buddies or whatever. And, you know, and people just throw it off like that, not even ever assuming that there was anything else. You know what I'm saying? I think
Yeah,
that was
maybe.
more fuel that they must have known each other for like their entire lives.
I don't know that I would say that though, because when you see Kate with them and Kate's shock at that, and Kate even knowing, I mean, of course, it's because Kate has.
Well,
has
Kate
seen them
already
kiss,
saw it.
but
Yeah.
but before then, he was Mr. Scott. He had
Mhm.
no other name. He had no other title. They were not
That is
close.
true.
So, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, she gives him that leeway to call her Joy or Joyce, but that doesn't denote that they're openly friendly with each other. I mean,
I don't
if my-
know.
I gotta tell you, if my husband was standing right, and I wouldn't, even without him there, I wouldn't do this. But if my husband was standing right there, and there was a dude looking at me the way Mr. Scott looked at Joy, my husband would have punched him right in the throat.
Yeah.
There's no way
Definitely.
that was more than friendship, and I don't think Rod's a stupid guy. I think he was looking down the whole time and didn't see it. But the
I
fact
wonder
that
if
they are
he
that
knows.
brazen,
I
I don't
you
think
know,
so.
here's the thing. I don't know. I think that I do want to say that I think the reason why Kate calls him Mr. Scott isn't even so much a formality thing. Like there's some thing removed from there. I do think they're pretty close, because the reason why I would say that is, you know, if the man down the street started found my daughter and was, you know, wanting to take her home, she would not ask him to take her to Wahlburger. You know,
Well,
to
she
go
was
to-
drunk though. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. It just seemed like something that she would not ask she didn't ask Martin. She, so I wonder.
Yeah.
so she went with Martin though.
but she wasn't drunk either whenever. I mean, she was like absolutely
Yeah, she was
smashed when
I
she
don't
was all
know.
sobered up by then.
I don't know.
'Cause
I
I feel
think,
like
like there's people, especially like in the South. I mean, I know there's kids, you know, you call adults Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, you know what I'm saying? There's like a formality with it. So I don't know if we can really,
White died.
yeah. I don't know.
You still
I mean, we
think-
That could be.
Who knows? I mean, I guess we just don't know yet.
yeah, and we don't know anything really.
None
None of us really know anything.
How much would it suck to be on a plane in first class with a dead body?
That was the other thing. Is Jeanette the dead body she's talking about?
It's so random, right?
Not that Jeanette's actually dead, but is Cindy saying Jeanette is our dead body? we paid so much to have this life, and Jeanette is our dead body.
Oh, you
Maybe.
think? You thought there was something? You thought there was something with that?
Yeah. I've been
Oh,
that hammered before,
I
and that's
thought
when
you
things
were
come
just
out of my
watching
mouth that I don't want anybody else to hear, but that I really feel.
I just thought it was one
I
of
mean,
those
not in a
things
long
where-
time, to be very clear.
Yeah,
But
it
I-
was. I don't know that. I think she was so drunk that there wasn't anything. I mean, not consciously.
I don't think
Yeah.
anything in the show is an accident or doesn't mean anything. I think
Oh,
everything in the
that's
show
true.
means something.
Unconscious
And I think
metaphor.
she's saying, this is our life. We sacrificed for it. We paid for it. And Jeanette is our dead body. Now we have to just have to sit next to a dead body. And now we have to have this thing stinking up our life, altering our life, making us so uncomfortable and hate everything
Well,
about
that's
what we
sad.
sacrificed for. I mean,
Yes.
Cindy
That's so
becomes a
deep.
sad character.
I
And
honestly never, that didn't cross my mind at all, but it
No,
makes
I-
so much sense.
because the
It's
whole
so
reason
deep.
she's talking is because someone spit on her car because of who Jeanette is now.
Mhm.
That's the whole reason she started talking
Yes.
and drinking in the first place. So her mind
It-
is already in that place of trying to put a name to the emotion that she's feeling, and the emotion is, my daughter is killing us.
Oh,
You're welcome.
I didn't even think about that.
So
Let's
That's
deep.
go to
why I
sleep
always
with the
bring-
fun theory of thinking of Jeanette's stinking body. Other Jeanette, not
Not me. Not me. No.
All right. So does anything have any passing remarks they want to say before we sign off for the night? It was only about an hour. I mean, we've been here longer, but the recording was only an hour.
Right. No. I mean,
did we cover it all?
I think we got it all.
Was there anything on the fan page that we need to cover or didn't?
No, not really.
No,
Not,
I think everything's
not that
pretty-
would repeat.
Okay.
No.
You don't want to spend another hour repeating everything we already said?
No.
I'm gonna go to bed.
All right.
Tired.
All right. Well, on that note, guys, we are going to sign off. We thank you for listening. And I hear there's only, what is there? 5 more episodes?
I think 5 more. I think.
That's it.
I think there's only
Wow.
10 total.
So we're only this season. We hope for this season. So we are only going to be here for 5 more times past this. So keep tuning in, keep watching. And if you are not a member of our fan page, it is Cruel Summer Turner Family Fan Club.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm in it. I didn't make up the name. So that's the name of it. It is Cruel Summer Turner Family Fan Club. If you are not a part of that group, go ahead and join that. We'll put the link in the podcast description and give us your theories there so we can share them here. If you want to talk on our show, let us know and we'll do some lives here coming soon. But keep watching. Thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in, and let us know if you think we're right or wrong. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye. So we'll see you guys in a week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.